Hi, I'm Randy Robison. This is Life Today TV. I'm here talking with Keith Kraft, who is the pastor of the Cathedral in Frisco, Texas, known as Elevate Life Church. Frisco's just north of Dallas, for those of you that don't know. He is also the author of a book called Your Divine Fingerprint, The Force That Makes You Unstoppable. Keith, thanks for taking a few minutes with us.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Randy.
Now, why a fingerprint?
We don't think about it. We kind of know somewhere in the back of our mind that, hey, we've got this unique thing about us, but literally at the end of your fingertips is a fingerprint that nobody in history's ever had, nobody in the future will ever have. And I grew up in a Dallas policeman's home and kind of had this awareness that the only way that a fingerprint was used by forensic science was to identify somebody at the scene of a crime. And just in my own quest and in my own journey with God, in fact, I was sitting in church when I was 14, and the pastor said, "Look at your hand." And all he said was, "You have a fingerprint that nobody else has." And I'd known that, had heard that, had grown up in the house with this CSI guy.
Right.
But what came to me that day, and really what God spoke to my spirit, was that you have a fingerprint that nobody else has. And then what came to me was to leave an imprint that nobody else can leave. And I can honestly say from the time I was 14, it was like, you know what, there's something not just special about me, but there's something special about every individual. And really the book is sort of a life message that was born out of that how do you take this fingerprint and beyond your gifts, beyond your competencies, beyond your talents, those are all things that help to shape us and define us, but how do you really discover, develop, and deploy your fingerprint that leaves an imprint in the world that really does matter? And so I wrote a book about it, and that's what the book is about. And so I talk about core values, that your core values, some of them may be similar to mine, but your core values are really what matters most to you, and that every individual has to decide, here's what matters most to me, so that they can live a life that most matters. So we dedicate a whole chapter to that. We talk about your think, your be, your do, that again, the most important thing about you is your think, be, do. And most of us have not been taught that. We think, well, the most important thing about me would be, let's see, what would that be? We would have a hard time even answering it. But it's really how you think, how you be, or how you are as a person, and then what you do in life. And so again, I talk about how to really help you understand your own think, your own be, your own do, and how that'll determine everything that you have in life.
Are you trying to convey a sense of importance to everybody, even with all the people on the face of the earth? It's easy to get lost.
Yeah.
And most people think, okay, well, there's a few big leaders and a few pastors and a few really big influencers, but they don't put themselves in that category.
Right. Here's what I really believe. Michelangelo, when he was 26, nobody had ever really heard of him. And I tell a story in the book about how he was contacted by the leaders in Florence to take on chipping and shaping a piece of marble that had been laying in the back of a cathedral for over 100 years. He was the third man that was asked to do it over a 100-year period of time. And to do what? To actually make an image of David. Mm-hmm. For the next 2 years, he chiseled, he shaped, he polished, and after a 4-year period, he had the image done in about 2 years, but then over the next 2 years, he shaped every little muscle, shaped every little crevice in David's body that he was sculpting, and it became a masterpiece. And he was asked this question, how were you able to take a piece of marble, Carrara marble, that had laid dormant for 100 years, it had weeds grown over it, it was dirty. How were you able to shape this masterpiece when other people were not able to do anything with it? He said, all I did was I began to think David, and I removed everything that I did not think was David. And what I'm trying to teach people is that your life is a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece by God. You've been fearfully and wonderfully made. You've been given this fingerprint that nobody else has, to leave an imprint that nobody else can leave. But you've been given that to create masterpieces. In other words, that everything you set your hand to do, it'll prosper. It's not about you comparing yourself to somebody else. It's about you being that unique individual that God's put you on the earth to be. And therefore, whatever you set your hands to do, it can become a masterpiece because you're a masterpiece.
On that order, you go so far as to say that everyone has a level of genius.
Yes.
Most of us do not consider ourselves
Yeah.
a genius.
Yeah.
But you're saying that something is there. What does that come from?
Well, I believe, again, and genome science shows us this. So what I'm saying is very scientific. It's 99% of our DNA is all the same. There's only a 1% difference between everybody that's ever has been born and everybody that ever will be born. I call that your 1% factor, or your X factor for success, that within the context and the content of that 1% is your genius. And I believe that that's the glory of God. You know, Jesus prayed a prayer in John 17. He said, God, you've given me your glory. Now I give it to them. And my question to people is not just, what are you doing with the glory of God that's in you, but did you know that you have a deposit of God's glory in you that nobody's ever had? And it's evidenced by a fingerprint that nobody's ever had and that nobody ever will have. But, you know, Einstein said something like this. I refer to it in my book. He said, if you judge a fish by how it climbs a tree, you'll think that the fish is stupid. And I think a lot of times what happens in our life is we do feel stupid. We don't feel like we're very special. We don't feel like that there's very much to offer, because we don't understand that within us is what I call genius. And it's that glory of God, that if you will develop that deposit of God's glory that's in you that the world has never seen before, you'll be seen as a genius. And not that you're trying to be a genius, but the genius that's in you really is the glory of God that's in you.
It's that uniqueness. You are probably more unique than you realize. And Keith is going to explain that to you if you get into his book. You can also check out Keith when he's on Life Today. His wife joins us. That's at lifetoday.org. And Keith, if someone wants to get more information about your Divine Fingerprint, the book, or hear maybe some of your sermons, learn more about you or your church, tell us where to go.
Well, they can go to elevatelife.com. It's real simple, elevatelife.com, or keithcraft.org. And, of course, the book is available at Barnes & Noble's, wherever books are sold, and on Amazon, everywhere. Yeah. But we would love to help people discover, develop, and deploy their fingerprint into the world. I feel like that's my fingerprint, is to help people do that.
Excellent. Check him out. Check him out right now. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's my honor.